Welcome to the 6-week Nutrition Reboot. Over the next 6 weeks, we're going to cover a variety of information regarding nutrition and answer many of your common questions. Today for our video, we are going to just do a brief overview of what we expect and how the program is going to flow over the next 6 weeks. So first of all, no matter what I say in this video, whatever you learn over the next 6 weeks, if you simply just remember this one quote and apply it to everything you do, you will be successful. That quote is, eat meat and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, and no sugar. You want to keep intakes to levels that support exercise, but not body fat. Let's dissect that quote. Eat meat and vegetables, nuts and seeds. This means meat, vegetables, nuts, seeds, knock yourself out. There's no limiting factor to this. The next one is some fruit. This was not in the unlimited category. This was only some. That doesn't mean we're crushing apples and bananas multiple times through the day. Maybe we're choosing one serving of fruit per day. The next thing is little starch. Again, this was not in the unlimited category. This is just a little bit. The next portion is no sugar. There wasn't some, there wasn't little, there is not unlimited. This is no sugar. We will talk about this later in the video. The last portion of this quote is we want to keep intakes to levels that support exercise, but not body fat. So yes, I said unlimited in some aspects, but we still want to make sure we're getting a caloric balance that is supporting our daily life, it's supporting our exercise, but we're not so far above that that our body's storing those extra nutrients as fat. Over the next 6 weeks, we have 3 goals for you. The way that you're going to learn how to exercise, the way that you're going to learn how to eat should accomplish these things. First of all, it should only increase your metabolism. Where your metabolism is today, right here potentially, at the end of the 6 weeks, our goal is to increase your metabolism to here. Again, with how you're going to learn how to exercise, with how you're going to learn how to eat, we're only going to speed up that process. The next goal for us and what we want to teach you is how to maintain stable blood sugar levels. Throughout the course of the day, because of how we're eating, most of us, our blood sugar levels go like this. We do not want that. In the end, we want to maintain nice, stable blood sugar levels. That's going to help us lose weight, it's going to help us improve our lean body mass, and overall just make us feel better. The last thing that we want for you guys is this is not a quick 6-week fix. We want you to do what you're going to do over the next course of the 6 weeks in 6 months, in 6 years. Yes, depending on what our goals are, our nutrition is going to slightly change, but a lot of the basic things you're going to learn in this program, you should apply truly for a lifetime. We want you to be successful over the course of your life, not just this 6 weeks. Over the course of the next 6 weeks, we need to monitor what you're eating so that we can help you. The best tool that we can use to do this is an app called MyFitnessPal. There's many other apps out there, but in the end, MyFitnessPal has the most robust database and it is going to be the most user-friendly for what we're going to ask. So I'm going to briefly go over how to use your MyFitnessPal and how to set this up. So if you guys have not downloaded the app called MyFitnessPal yet, when you do, it's going to ask you a variety of questions. It's going to ask you how old you are, how tall you are, how much you weigh, what your activity level is, and then what your goals are. Answer this correctly. Based off of all of those answers that you give the system, it's going to produce how much calories, how much protein, carbs, and fat that it wants you to eat. This is what we're going to set you guys at with those calories that it calculates. When it comes to the macronutrients, your protein, your carbs, and fat, we do want to adjust this. So for most of us, we want to start at 35% protein and carbohydrates, and then 30% fat. Yes, depending on who we are, what our goals are, that might change, and your coach will reach out to you personally to adjust that. But for most of us, this is a really good starting point. So I'm going to help you guys go through your MyFitnessPal and then make these adjustments. So you guys are going to open up your phone onto your MyFitnessPal. Again, if you've never been on this before, it's going to ask you a variety of questions, answer them correctly. Once you're done, your screen will look like mine right up here. When you go down to the bottom right-hand corner to more, there's 3 lines. On there, you're going to see something that says goals. You're going to click that. And then you're going to see, again, your current weight, your goal weight, what your goals are, and your activity level. For your activity level, make sure this is set to active, okay? Most of us are now working out regularly. This is going to be an appropriate measure for most of us. You'll click set. Your goal here, your weekly goal, you're going to see a variety of options. Lose 2 pounds, maintain weight, gain weight. Again, choose what your goal is and then set that. The next thing you're going to go through is underneath nutrition goals. It's going to say calories, carbs, protein, and fat goals. This is the one that you want to click and adjust. Here is going to see how many calories you have set for your day, and then your carbs, protein, and fat. This is where we now want to change these percentages. So again, for most of us, we want 35% carbs and 35% protein. So you're going to click in there on any one of those nutrients, and then you're going to adjust these percentages. So you're going to switch to 35% carbs, 35% protein, and then 30% fat, and you'll hit the check mark, and then now it's set. So now we want you to start inputting your daily intake into here. So when you go to your diary, you're going to see breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks. This is where you're now going to add the foods. The easiest way to add your food is when you go add food, you want to use the barcode scanner. So let's say I had a scoop of this collagen powder. I opened up the barcode scanner. I'm going to go to the barcode. I'm going to scan that barcode, and then all of the nutrition information is going to pop up, which should reflect your MyFitnessPal. If I had 1 scoop of this, yes, that's correct. I'm going to keep that number of servings there. Let's say maybe I have 2 scoops of this. I'm going to change that to 2 servings, and then in the check mark, and now it's input in here. I'm going to go to tomorrow, and then now I had maybe another 2 scoops of this collagen powder. I'm going to go back to my add food, but then it's already in here. I never have to scan this again. So once you've scanned something, it's in your MyFitnessPal forever. So again, I had 2 scoops of this. It's there. I just click it. Yep, 2 scoops. That all looks correct. And then it's into my daily intake again. Yes, this is going to be work. It's not easy. There's definitely an adjustment period. For myself, because I've done this so much, I have all my common foods that I would typically eat, scanned and inputted in here. I hardly scan and look things up anymore because it's just already done for me. So be patient, give it a little bit of time, and I promise it does get easier. Let's say you had a tomato, and obviously the tomato doesn't have a barcode scanner. You're gonna have to look this up freehand. So you're gonna go to add food, you're gonna go search for food, you're gonna look up a tomato, search, and it's gonna give you a variety of options. The ones that have the green check marks beside them, those are the options that you want to choose. That means that MyFitnessPal has gone through and they've solidified that input. So I'm gonna look at this, 22 calories for 1 medium tomato. That looks about right. That's the one I'm going to choose. Let's say maybe I had 3 tomatoes. I'm going to change that serving size to 3, save, and then it's set into MyFitnessPal. Again, when I go to tomorrow, maybe I have tomatoes again, I never have to look that up. It's already in my database of my history. Over the course of the 6 weeks, your coaches will be checking in with you, making sure you're finding the system easy. Again, there is a learning curve. We'll make sure we check to make sure your macros are set properly, your calories do look good for your goals, but at this point, this is how you guys are gonna set it up, and we want you guys to start inputting your data. The next thing with your MyFitnessPal is we want you to be hitting those percentages and those grams. So as I go through and start inputting my stuff throughout the day, I'm gonna scroll to the bottom of MyFitnessPal and I'm going to go to nutrition. Here is where I can see how much protein I've eaten, how much carbs, how much fat, and how much I have left. So far with my 2 scoops of collagen powder and my 3 tomatoes, I've had 23 grams of protein, 18 grams of carbs, and 13 grams of fat. And I still have much more left. So as you go throughout your day, you're going to start to pay attention to this and then choosing foods to make sure you hit that amount of grams and those percentages as close as you can. When it comes to your nutrition intake and using your MyFitnessPal, we need you to weigh out your food. You're all freaking out. This is a lot to ask, but it's not. It gets very easy, I do promise. If you just simply have oatmeal, whatever serving size you desire, and then input it into MyFitnessPal, it's not accurate whatsoever. We actually still have no idea what you're eating. On everything that you eat, you have your nutrition labels. On your nutrition labels, it gives you two different measurements, either half a cup or 40 grams. Traditionally, most of us would take a half a cup measuring device and we would measure out half a cup and then cook our oatmeal and then eat it and say that was a serving size. That is not what you want to do. If I took half a cup of oatmeal and measured it out, we'll see how many grams it gives us. So if I took this scooper, put it in and just cooked it, and then I actually weighed out how much oatmeal that serving was, it is 65 grams that fills this half a cup measuring device. That is not what that alternative serving size is. It is actually 40 grams. That means if I measured out my oatmeal in this manner, I would be eating 50% more than I thought I was going to eat. That is a massive, massive difference. You can see it did not take me long to pour my oatmeal into a device to measure out how many grams that serving was. It pretty much took me the same amount of time as if I took the scooper, scooped it in, got that half a cup measurement, and poured it out. Instead, I'm going to take my bowl or my pot, whatever I'm cooking my oatmeal in, place it on my food scale, press 0. Measure out my 40 grams, and then go and cook it. Yes, that maybe took an extra 5 seconds compared to just scooping it out, but now I actually have an accurate measurement of what I am eating. When it comes to weighing and measuring your food, you're gonna figure out easier ways to do this. Personally, for myself, I eat oatmeal quite often. This is how I do it. I'm the only person in the house that is eating oatmeal at this time. So I'm going to scan my barcode, weigh out, my 40 grams, and then go cook it. But let's say me and my husband, we're having quinoa tonight. I'm not necessarily going to measure out my own portion of dry quinoa, cook my own pot, and then eat it. We have kids, we have each other. It's not realistic. So instead, what I'm going to do is we're gonna cook our big pot of quinoa, and then when I go to eat it myself, I'm gonna take my food scale, I'm gonna take my plate, put it on top of my food scale, and then I'm gonna weigh out how many grams of quinoa I'm going to eat. When it comes to now inputting how much I weighed out and ate into MyFitnessPal, I can't use that barcode on this container anymore because it's different. I have now cooked it. It is a completely different substance. Instead, I need to open up MyFitnessPal and I need to search for a cooked version of quinoa. Okay? Then let's say I measured out 150 grams of cooked quinoa for my dinner. I'm going to go into MyFitnessPal, look up a cooked quinoa version, and then write down that I had 150 grams of that. When it comes to meat, a lot of our meats we're probably going to weigh out in their cooked version. Me and my husband, we make a big flat of chicken breast at the beginning of the week, and then we eat it throughout the rest of the week. What I'm going to do, again, I'm going to take my plate or my container, put it on the food scale, 0 it. I'm gonna weigh out however many grams of chicken breast I'm gonna eat, 100 to 200, whatever that is for that meal. Then in MyFitnessPal, I'm going to look up a cooked chicken breast option and then input how many grams I ate and then press OK, and then it's downloaded into MyFitnessPal. So there is a learning curve of what things you're going to scan, what things you have to look up freehand, if it's cooked, if it's raw, but always make sure, if you can, use the raw version or if you're going to have a cooked version, you're gonna look up that cooked version. So in your MyFitnessPal, we got you to set certain percentages for your protein, your carbs, and your fat. Everything you eat, whatever it is going to be one of those macronutrients, a protein, a carbohydrate, or a fat. For the most part, a lot of us have a general concept of what those things are, but now we're going to go into depth about what each one is and why it's valuable for us. A lot of us have done a lot of these fad diets, like the ketogenic diet. We have low carbs, high fat, or high protein, high carbs. It's very, very confusing out there in what these things are and why we need it. What we believe is in balanced nutrition. A lot of us are going to have balance. We wanted 35% protein and carbohydrates, 30% fat. That's about a 1/3 balance of each that we want you guys to eat. Now we'll go into why we want that, what each one of those nutrients means to us, and what good choices and bad choices are in each one of these categories. Protein. So in the fitness community, I think when you're first entering it and you hear about protein, it's almost a little intimidating and you think, oh, these fitness people, they're just obsessed with their protein and you don't quite understand why. First of all, a lot of us are just not eating enough protein in your diet. So when you hear us talk about protein and when you guys start to really think about protein in your nutrition, it's gonna be a little bit shocking. You're gonna be eating way more than you traditionally have been eaten in the past. When I look at someone's nutrition without me ever saying or inputting anything, a lot of us are eating anywhere between like 10 to 15% of our diet in protein. You guys now know that I want at least 35% of your diet to be protein. That is a massive increase. That is double and more than what you're traditionally eating. In our traditional North American diet and a lot of other cultural diets, protein is not a huge staple. When you think of when you're hungry and you're looking for something to eat, picking up some pork or chicken or eggs or yogurt is not necessarily the first thing you do. Usually it's very simple carbohydrates. You're grabbing a cookie, a muffin, you're grabbing a banana, you're grabbing crackers. That's why a lot of us just aren't getting enough protein in our diet. In the end, we're not asking you to eat a super high protein diet. We're just asking for moderation. We're just asking for balance. So why is protein so important to us? First of all, protein is your amino acids. It is your building blocks for your lean body mass. What is your lean body mass? It is your muscle. You want as much muscle as possible because the more muscle you have, the more calories you're going to burn on a daily basis. A lot of us come into this program looking to lose weight. If your goal is to lose weight, you want as much muscle as possible, okay? Again, the more muscle you have, the more calories you burn on a day-to-day basis, and the leaner you're going to be because of that. The next thing is by increasing protein in our diet, it's gonna give us a greater sense of being satisfied. It's gonna keep us full longer. So it's gonna help prevent cravings and snacking in the future. If I wake up and the first thing in the morning I have is a banana, I'm probably gonna be left pretty darn hungry in 30 minutes to an hour because that banana didn't have a lot of substance to it. It digested very quick and I was left very hungry after. If I started the morning off with eggs or yogurt, because it has a higher protein content, I'm left full longer. I'm not gonna have that crash or that big craving at the end. Next, we'll talk about carbohydrates. So carbohydrates are one of those confusing ones. A lot of us, we really promoted a high carbohydrate diet. Now the biggest trend is a ketogenic diet where we're saying carbs are bad, don't touch them. It can be really, really confusing. In the end, we love carbohydrates, but they need to be earned. Carbohydrates are your best source of energy. We just talked about protein. Protein is your amino acids. It's the building blocks for your lean body mass. We want to have as much muscle and lean body mass as we can because it's going to increase our metabolic rate. It's going to help us burn fat. It's a very, very valuable thing. When we look at carbohydrates, we have them as a source of energy. Yes, protein, fat can be utilized as sources of energy, but in the end, carbohydrates are your best option. But you need to earn them, okay? When we go back to the beginning of this video and we looked at that quote, we said little starch. Okay, it wasn't unlimited starch, it was a little amount, enough that it gives us energy, but not so much that we're overeating these things. Whenever we eat a carbohydrate, it gets metabolized, and everything that we eat turns into blood sugar, okay? Turns into sugar into our bloodstream. That is the energy then that our body is going to utilize for its daily activity. There are a few different places where our body can take energy. Number one is that blood sugar. It's going to take that, whatever we ate, and utilize it as immediate energy. The next thing is our glycogen stores. Our glycogen stores are these little pockets and stores in our muscle. Okay? We only have so many of them. If we're not super active, we're not using that immediate blood sugar, that energy, the things that we're eating, we're just kind of chilling, watching TV, where does all this blood sugar go? Where does this energy go? The first place it goes is it's stored into those glycogen stores. And we only have so many. So we're not active, we're still eating lots of chips and cookies and cakes. Our glycogen stores are now full. So then what happens, the next place that this energy gets stored is in our fat cells. And we can make as many fat cells as we need. So if we overeat carbohydrates, especially the wrong carbohydrates, and we're not living a healthy, active lifestyle and utilizing energy, we're going to keep those glycogen stores full because they're never going to get depleted, and we're only going to build more fat. Again, we can build as much fat as possible. There's not an unlimited amount of cells that can be produced here. So when it comes to carbohydrates, we love them. They're a great source of energy, but we want to make sure we're eating enough that supports and gives us energy, but not so much that our glycogen stores are full and we're starting to build more fat. So what type of carbohydrates do we want? I can go through the long list of the ones that we don't. Chips, pop, cake, cookies, muffins, bread, candy, juice. Obviously, you don't want to eat these things. What carbohydrates do we want instead? I have a few varieties out here for us. So when we talk about carbohydrates, we also like to kind of categorize it into two categories: our starchy carbohydrates and then our leafy ones, which are going to be more of our vegetables. So when it comes to starchy carbohydrate sources, lentils, oats, quinoa, all really great options. Over here I have some sweet potato, another great option. Pasta. I say pasta cautiously, it is more of a processed carbohydrate, but if you are weighing out your serving sizes and it's appropriate to how many carbs you're going to eat in a day, great. After that, we have our leafy vegetables. We have cucumber, peppers, lettuce, tomatoes, onions. Knock yourself out here. Again, if we refer back to that quote, we said unlimited vegetables. I dare you to eat too much of this stuff. It will never, ever happen. Me and my husband live a very busy life. We have a family. We are busy at the gym in our facility. We don't have a lot of time to necessarily cut all these things up and make it beautiful. So one of the secrets and tools that we use a lot is frozen vegetables. Don't poo-poo these. If we think about these vegetables over here, they were picked at their peak ripeness and then flash frozen and then given to us. These things over here, they weren't picked at their peak ripeness because they were trucked over here. It took a long time. They're picked when they're not necessarily ready to be picked, and then they ripen as they're transported to you. So don't necessarily run away from your frozen vegetables. Yes, fresh is lovely, but frozen is a really, really good option. You can pretty much buy any sort of frozen vegetable. It keeps for a long time. It's super easy. You don't have to cut anything up. We love sweet potato. It's one of the carbs that we use quite often. Now, we don't cut up our sweet potato. We just buy these frozen bags of it. We put it in the air fryer, done. It took us no time. It was super, super easy. Another thing that we use as a trick is we buy the bags of coleslaw or buy the bags of already cut up lettuce, because again, there's not a lot of prep. We just use this, put it in our bowl, and then we're good to go. The next thing when it comes to carbohydrates is our fruit. If we refer back to that quote, again, it didn't say unlimited fruit. There was a moderate amount of it. When it comes to fruit, we want to be sticking more with berries. So we love frozen berries. I have a bag of frozen blackberries here, but that's blackberries, raspberries, blueberries, strawberries. Berries are much lower on the glycemic index. So your glycemic index is a measurement of how high your blood sugar raises when you eat one of these foods. If I eat the pasta compared to the pepper, the pasta is going to be much higher on the glycemic index because it's going to increase my blood sugars much more compared to if I was to eat this pepper. We always want to try and choose foods that are lower on the glycemic index compared to the higher side of the glycemic index. When it comes to fruits, yes, they're kind of on the higher side, but berries are on the lowest side of this scale. If you're crushing pineapple, if you're crushing mango, those things are much higher on that glycemic index. So we much rather choose berries. It's going to be a good option for us. The next thing with carbohydrates that is really valuable to us, besides just a great source of energy, is this is where you're going to get your vitamins and minerals. When we look at a lot of the foods that are on the higher side of the glycemic index, like pasta, like cookies, like cake, any sort of thing that's super high in sugar, there's not a lot of vitamins and minerals associated with it. When you look at foods on the lower side of the glycemic index, like your peppers, your tomatoes, your cucumber, this is where you're getting those vitamins and minerals. This is really, really important to us. So knock yourself out over on this side. When it comes to weighing these things out, weighing out your lettuce, it's very minuscule. It's not super calorie dense. Your peppers, again, not very calorie dense. When you're looking at your plate and you're serving your food, you should have 1/4 for your protein, 1/4 for your starchy carbohydrates, and then half, so 2/4 of this over here. Again, knock yourself out. You cannot go wrong. If we look back in the 90s, we were all terrified of fat, okay? When you went grocery shopping, you were always looking for the low-fat options because we thought fat was making us fat. What happened is there was a study done by a doctor with the last name Keyes. In his study, in the end, what he found was that fat was making us fatter. It was increasing high cholesterol, it was increasing a lot of heart conditions, it was increasing obesity. The world then took this as a new truth, the new dogma, and told everyone, don't eat fat, eat a low-fat diet because it's going to make you fat and make you really unhealthy. So if we look at a cracker or if we look at yogurt, what all these big companies did now, they're like, oh no, everyone's looking for a low-fat product. So they started to take fat out of the products so that they could keep selling these things. But we know that fat equals flavor. So now, all of a sudden, the yogurt, all of a sudden, these crackers did not taste very good anymore. So how do they still get people to buy these products? What they did instead is they added sugar. So now we took out fat, we added sugar so they could sell these products as low-fat products, and they still tasted delicious. As time went on, do we think our society got healthier? Do we think we decreased obesity rates? Do we think we decreased a lot of these horrible health conditions? The answer is no. They only became worse. We now know when we look back at this study that it was very, very flawed and completely incorrect. We know that fat is not bad. What we do know is sugar is bad. Now I think we've kind of switched a lot. The ketogenic diet is very popular and we are promoting more of a high-fat diet. In the end, we do want moderation. We want about 30% of our diet to be healthy fats. So why do we want fat in our diet? Fat is another great energy source. Carbohydrates are the best energy source, but second to that, fat is a great energy source. The next thing is that fat is really important for our brain functioning and our nerve functioning. Another thing fat is important for is producing hormones and then helping us absorb certain nutrients. These are all really important functions in our body: our nerve function, our brain function, our hormones, absorbing nutrients. If we're not eating a diet that's rich in healthy fats, these processes aren't functioning as best as they potentially could. So what are healthy fats? Pretty much all fats are good except for your saturated fats. We really want to avoid, I have a bad example here, peanut oil, canola oil, vegetable oil. These are fats that have been highly processed and cause a lot of damage in our body. So when you guys are cooking, certain fats that you guys would want to stick with is avocado oil, olive oil, grapeseed oil, all really good options. When it comes to choosing our meats, we talked about it, we want to make sure we're choosing lean meats. We don't want to be eating meats that are super heavy in fat, especially that saturated fat. We want to keep it as lean as possible. Other good fat options are nuts, seeds. I have some pumpkin seeds here. I have some nuts in the sense of peanut butter here, but almonds, all really great things. The biggest thing with fat that you do need to be cautious of is fat is incredibly nutrient dense. 1 gram of fat is equal to 9 calories. 1 gram of protein and 1 gram of carbohydrates is equal to 4 calories. That means for 1 gram of fat, it's double and more the amount of calories compared to a gram of protein and carbohydrates. So we need to be very cautious and very aware about how much fat we are eating. A lot of us are eating way too high in fat because I know for myself, if I'm to open up this peanut butter jar and start eating it, I'm definitely not eating just 15 grams for that single serving. I'm eating much more and not necessarily aware of it. Let's say I had a bunch of almonds. I'm not just eating my 5, 9 almonds, I'm eating 20, 30 almonds in a blink of an eye and not necessarily realizing that. That is a lot of calories. So don't be scared of fat, embrace it. It's very important for a lot of our bodily functions, but be very cautious at the amount of fat that you guys are having. When it comes to peanut butter, I actually have a great option. I personally avoid this now because I have no self-control with it. I eat way too much. I will use this instead. So this is just a dehydrated peanut. They've taken a lot of the fat out. So this is almost just like a protein powder. Yes, it's not the same as my peanut butter, but it kind of gives me that craving. Another thing that you guys need to be cautious about with your fat is how you are cooking things, how you are using these oils. Let's say I had a bunch of liquid olive oil and I'm cooking my chicken breast or I'm stir frying my vegetables. Usually I'm not very cautious potentially of how much oil I'm using. You guys need to make sure you're accounting for this. If you guys are frying an egg and you use a tablespoon of olive oil, that needs to go into your MyFitnessPal. That egg absorbed that olive oil and it's going into your system. If you guys are making a big stir fry of vegetables, and again, you're using an oil to cook these, you have to put that into your MyFitnessPal. So one of the things that I just do on a standard basis is add 1 to 2 tablespoons of olive oil in MyFitnessPal every day, just to account that fat that I'm using in my cooking. I do try and make sure that I use as little of fat in my cooking as possible. One of the best tools for this is the air fryer. You don't need a lot of oil. If you're using one of these spray containers, it's just a quick little spray. You put your vegetables or your meat in, and then you're good. If I was to cook those same things, again, in a frying pan or in the oven, I'm gonna use much more oil than I might think I am. Moral of the story of fat is do not be scared of fat. It is very valuable to you, but be cautious of how much fat you're eating. Poison, okay? You now have your macronutrients, your protein, your carbs, and your fat over here. And you have this whole extra category of poison, ethanol, which is alcohol. This is not valuable to us. We now have learned that protein has value for us and what it is. Carbohydrates have value to us. Fat is valuable to us. This does nothing for us. It does not increase our muscle mass. It does not provide us a good source of energy. It does not help with your hormone and your brain functioning. It literally does nothing. So you have a few issues with alcohol here. Number one, it is not calorie-free. We know that a protein and a carbohydrate, 1 gram is equal to 4 calories. 1 gram of fat is equal to 9 calories. 1 gram of alcohol is equal to 7 calories. We learn now that it has literally no value to our bodily function, and it's not calorie-free. It's crazy. So that's problem number one with alcohol. Problem number two with alcohol is when you drink alcohol, it messes up your metabolic process. I like to use the word poison because it is true, but for effect, when you drink poison, your body's priority is to remove that poison out of your body. It's not just gonna let it sit there and let it fester. It says, there's poison here, we need to get rid of this. So let's say I'm out with friends, I'm going out for dinner, I know I'm gonna have a few glasses of wine, but I'm gonna balance it out with my chicken breast and my salad, dressing on the side, so it's not that bad. What happens in that instance? When I'm drinking my wine, I'm eating my chicken breast and my salad has all these other good nutrients. My body favors prioritizing, metabolizing the alcohol compared to the chicken breast and the vegetables that I'm eating. So I'm not metabolizing and reaping the benefits of those good nutrients. I'm only trying to excrete the alcohol in my system. So to focus on the alcohol, the body takes those good nutrients and puts it away. Most likely it's putting it away into those glycogen stores, it's putting away into those fat stores. So you're actually promoting fat storage when you're drinking alcohol. Over the next few weeks, I really challenge you not to drink, okay? It's doing you no good. Yes, there's a lot of great effects of alcohol about relaxing you, or maybe there's some antioxidant effects from your wine, but you can find a lot of those benefits in other places that don't have the detrimental effects of alcohol. So my first advice is try to just cut it out. I promise you will feel better because of it. If you are going to drink, plan ahead. Open up your MyFitnessPal, put your beer in, put your wine in. These things are quite calorie dense. 200 calories over here for this beer, 150 calories for a glass of wine, and you're probably not stopping at one. Those calories come from the alcohol calories, but now they're also coming from a lot of sugar calories. If you're drinking a cocktail, it's usually super sweet. There's a lot of sugar in it. If you're mixing your rum and Coke, there's a ton of sugar from this Coke. So not only do you have the detrimental effects of alcohol, that it's useless calories, it's messing with your metabolism, but now you get all these extra calories in sugar, which we don't want. If you are going to drink, just straight up, shots of whiskey, shots of tequila, shots of vodka, because at least then you only have the calories from the alcohol. You're not having all the other associated calories from the sugar or the mixes that you're having in. If you are going to drink also, again, make sure you input it into your MyFitnessPal. This still counts as calories. It still accounts to your overall amount of food that you're eating in that day, and you do need to account for it. Other things that you may typically drink is some people just straight up drink pop. This is a no-no. I really should not have to tell you this. Pop, juice are no good for you. If you look at a serving of this pop here, so a cup and a half is 150 calories and 41 grams of sugar. That is a ton of sugar. We do not want sugar in our nutrition. If we refer back to that quote of no sugar, this is no sugar. This is something that we just cannot do. A lot of us instead will start to drink Diet Coke or Coke Zero or those other alternatives. Those are just as bad as this. The sweetener that they use is incredibly bad for you. It actually was utilized as a war chemical back in the day, and they found in super microdoses that it was really sweet and it didn't kill you. No Diet Coke, no Coke Zero, or any of those options. Instead, if you are looking for something sweet and carbonated, these are going to be some great options for you. Zevia is a staple in our household. This is basically the Coke version. It is a carbonated beverage, but it's sweetened with something called stevia, which is what I have right here. Obviously, it's not the same, but at least you're kind of getting that sweet carbonation that you were looking for, and there's nothing bad in here for you. This is 0 calories, 0 sugar. It has a really good, healthy sweetener alternative in it compared to your Coke Zeros. Other things, if you're just looking for carbonation, a little bit more flavor, you have these 2 brands here. Again, there's nothing in them. They're not sweet like your Zevia is, but another thing that you can just sip on. If you are looking for other flavored beverages to drink, any sort of electrolyte powder is also a good option too that you can add into your water. One that we suggest is Vega Hydrator. A lot of good vitamins and minerals that they add into this, and there's 0 calories, there's 0 sugar, and it's sweetened with stevia again, so it's not bad. Your tea and coffee. A lot of you are drinking tea and coffee and you're putting sugar and you're putting cream in it. This is a lot of extra calories that you're maybe not accounting for or thinking of. That cup of coffee can be upwards to 200-300 calories sometimes, depending on what you're putting in it. Black coffee and black tea is what you guys should be drinking from now on. If you guys are looking to make it sweet and interesting, something that you could add would be stevia drops. It's a sugar alternative, but again, it's stevia, so it's not that bad. And then trying to use milk or almond milk, something that's a little bit less calorie dense compared to your creams, your whipping cream, etc. When it comes to water, we have a lot of questions of how much water should I be drinking? I don't like to focus too much on this. As long as you're not dying of thirst, you're probably good. Sometimes I think people overdo the water and they overhydrate themselves. So you should make sure you always have a water bottle with you, that you are staying hydrated, but don't go crazy thinking you need to have those big, huge jugs and just chugging water all day. If you're thirsty, drink. If you're not, kind of be aware, making sure you are getting enough. The easiest way to tell if you are drinking enough water is the color of your pee. If it's super dark and yellow, you're not hydrated enough. It should be more on the clear side, and if it is, you're gonna be golden. What we're gonna talk about is nutrient timing. Yes, how many calories you eat in a day is very important. Making sure you're getting in the correct amount of protein, the correct amount of carbohydrates, the correct amount of fat is super important. That is your #1 priority when it comes to your nutrition on a daily basis. The next thing we can do is now take those nutrients, your protein, your carbs, and fat, and then time them around different types of activities throughout the day. Your body absorbs nutrients differently in the morning, after you work out, at nighttime, and we want to take advantage of those different moments. A lot of you have maybe tried intermittent fasting, okay? Intermittent fasting is a very popular fad diet out there right now. The science behind it, yes, I love it, I do support it, but a lot of us are not doing intermittent fasting correctly the way it should be done, and a lot of us are using it as a quick fix, and it's not something that we can actually maintain. So if you guys are intermittent fasting, it's something that you want to do, speak to one of the coaches individually to make sure you're set up correctly for that. But other than that, intermittent fasting is not something that I will suggest for you guys. So in the morning, our body absorbs nutrients compared to how it absorbs nutrients later in the day. A study once showed that I can take the exact same breakfast and eat it at 8 a.m. in the morning as my first meal, or I can take that same meal and then not eat that first meal until 1 p.m. Yes, it was the exact same meal, the same amount of protein, carbs, and fat, the same amount of calories, but it increased my blood sugar levels differently. They found in the morning, if you ate that meal the earlier, it didn't spike your blood sugar levels as high. It was more of a steady increase. Compared to if you saved that first meal, you didn't eat anything until 1 o'clock, it was a more aggressive spike. We know that one of our goals in this program is to learn how to maintain stable blood sugar levels. That is #1. A lot of us just are not eating breakfast. We're super busy. We wake up with just amount of time to get ourselves out of the house, get the kids out of the house, get things organized, and leave. A lot of us aren't eating until later in the day because we're just too busy. We really want you guys to eat first thing in the morning, and you have no excuse for it. It is 100% possible. So in the morning, there's a lot of really easy things that you can do to get your metabolism going, a quick thing that you can eat on the go. If all else fails, the easiest thing you can do is simply just have a protein shake. You have your protein powder, you take a scoop, put it in your protein, in your shaker cup, shake it up, and then go. That now has started your metabolism off. It doesn't spike your blood sugar super high, and it gets you ready for the day. In the morning, what type of things do we want? For most of us, we want protein and fat, something that's going to slowly wake up our body. We don't want a banana. A banana is going to be a carbohydrate higher on that glycemic index, and it's going to spike our blood sugar levels more aggressively, leading to a big crash after that. That's not what we want. So some breakfast suggestions would be a protein shake. It could be Greek yogurt. It could be eggs. It could be some sort of meat. Something that has protein and fat involved in it, so it's going to slowly wake up your body. Again, that protein shake is incredibly easy, and you have no excuse not to do it. After that, throughout the day, we now want a mixture of protein, carbohydrates, and fat. Okay? This is your lunch. These are your snacks. What I did mention earlier about your plate, and when you look at this food, you should have about 1/4 protein, 1/4 starchy vegetables, and then 2/4, so a half of just leafy vegetables and greens. So you have your protein, you have your carbohydrates, and then fat does usually get sprinkled in within that with nuts or seeds or different dressings and sauces that you guys are using. Next, with your nutrient timing, at the evening, your last meal of the day, we want to try and stick to more protein and fat again. So morning, protein and fat, evening, protein and fat, and then in the middle of the day, protein, carbohydrates, and fat. The reason we want to stick with more protein and fat in the evening is it's going to keep us full longer, it's going to digest a little bit slower, and then we are eliminating kind of those starchy carbohydrates, the ones that are higher on the glycemic index, so we're not spiking our blood sugar levels as high right before we go to bed. That being said, your vegetables, knock yourself out at the evenings. A salad, some sweet potato, totally okay. But if I was going to have pasta in my day, I would try and time it around my lunch rather than timing it in the evening for my dinner. Now, for your workout. Right after you guys work out, your body is in a completely different state. What we provide our body as nutrients then is very, very important to us. So right after we work out, we want carbohydrates and we want protein. Eating a carbohydrate right after you work out is going to help replenish those glycogen stores that we talked about. When you guys work out, you either use the blood sugar in your bloodstream, you use your glycogen stores, or you use your fat stores. We want to replace those glycogen stores because it's going to help you recover in the future. It's going to help you feel better, you're going to feel less sore, you're going to have more energy for your workout the next day. We want protein right after our workout because we want to rebuild that lean body mass. When we work out, it is destructive. We take those muscles and we break them apart. It's now how we feed ourselves, how we fuel ourselves after, which gives us that increase in muscle mass and helps repair that damage. So protein is our amino acids, our building block for our lean body mass. So we want that right after we work out. So we start that rebuilding process instead of that destructive process. After your workout, a protein powder is honestly your easiest thing. You have a scoop of it, you put it in your shaker cup, you fill it with water, and then you go. If you guys like fruit, if you are a banana eater, instead of eating your banana in the morning, eating your banana right after your workout is a great time. So when it does come to those higher glycemic index carbohydrates, like bananas, like a mango, like one of those fruits, or something like Gatorade that it has some sugar in it, this is the only time I want you guys to have those things because your body's going to take that sugar, it's going to take that glucose, and it's going to replenish what you lost during your workout. So with your post-workout nutrition and your breakfast and your lunches, it also kind of depends what time of day you guys are working out. For those of you that are working out early in the morning, If you can wake up, get some sort of protein and fat in you before you come in workout, great. If not, if you guys want to wait till after your workout to have that post-workout nutrition as your first nutrition, that is also okay. For those of you that work out in the evening, sometimes potentially you're working out quite late. You're not out of the gym before 8:30, 9 o'clock. So that post-workout nutrition is potentially your last meal. So you guys come home from work, you have your dinner, which in this instance could be protein, carbohydrates, fat. You work out, and then you have that carb and that protein again right after your workout, and then you go to bed. So today's video was just a very brief overview of how this program is going to look, a little bit about protein, carbs, and fat, what we want you guys to do. As we move forward now, you guys are going to continually receive videos like this that are much shorter. They're only about 3 to 7 minutes with different topics. We'll go more into depth on those topics, and we'll have goals within those of things that we want you guys to start to do. So for your goal this week, your week 1, we want you guys to get a super solid breakfast. What you eat for breakfast should be the same all the time. It really should not change. We are going to approach you guys individually, ask you what you have been eating for breakfast, and together we're going to kind of find a good option for you. Your next goal this week is to start to use your MyFitnessPal. Yes, there is most definitely a learning curve to this, but if you're patient and you keep trying, it will become easy, and I honestly promise you it will take you no more than just a few minutes each day to input what you're eating in it. The next thing with your MyFitnessPal is we want you to start to weigh out your food. This is vitally important. If we go back to the example with the oatmeal, if I did not weigh out my oatmeal, I could potentially be eating 50% more than what I thought I was eating. So if you guys are set at 2,000 calories and you're using MyFitnessPal, but you're not actually weighing out your food, you could be potentially eating over 3,000 calories a day and having no idea that you actually are. So buy a food scale. They're very cheap. You should not spend more than about $20, $25 on this. You can buy it at any drugstore, any grocery store. You can buy it on Amazon right now. It'll be delivered tomorrow probably. And it should just stay on your counter. It should be a staple of what you do. So start to weigh out your food, input it into your MyFitnessPal. Think about your breakfast, finding a solid option that you can consistently do. And then as the weeks go on, we're going to help you create more goals, and we're going to teach you some more things and adding on to that. We don't want to overwhelm you with a ton of information nutrition-wise. Yes, today's video was a lot of information, but we will be touching on these topics again and then challenging you and adding things onto this over the course of the next 6 weeks. If you ever have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to one of your coaches. You can call them, you can text them, you can email them. We're here to support you in any way that you guys need. If you have a protein powder or a food that you're maybe questioning, just take a photo of it, send it to us, and we can easily tell you if it's something that we want you guys to keep in your nutrition or if there's a better substitution out there instead. Again, we're here to support you. If you have any questions, concerns, never hesitate to reach out.